Good afternoon. My name is Robert Scott Perry. I'm from Portsmouth, Rhode Island. I have an ambition to become your next senator. I would like to displace Jack Reed this year, 2014. The election is in 2 days. It is the 2nd of November, and on the 4th you all get to decide. Now, we've gone a lot of different ways in this campaign, and there are a lot of different issues. Mine are national issues, so I'm going to stick to that, and I'm going to tell you why and what I would do when I get to Washington as a senator. I would first challenge President Obama as to why it was okay for the teabaggers, whatever you want to call them, you can, but I call them teabaggers because that's, I think, a good name for them. They decided that they disliked the president so much before he even started working that they went to his speeches after the election carrying guns. Now, I guess everybody says, well, why did he get so crazy about the word guns? What's the difference? We've always had guns. Well, we don't protest our president with guns. If most of us did that, we would get arrested. Why, all of a sudden, because we have a black president, was it okay 6 years ago for them to show up carrying their guns and saying, Second Amendment solutions, black president, blah, blah, blah? I don't care what they had to say. That's something that I would care about. We're having a discussion with them about it, but I don't care in general, except that they carried guns. Now, a couple of years later, in response to the teabag movement and in response to the fact that so many banksters got rich after they stole our money, we had this thing called the Occupy movement. They had no guns. They brandished no guns. They preached not about guns or Second Amendment solutions. They just gave their opinion about how the rich people had taken all the money and left us with nothing. I think that's true. I don't just think it. I mean, I researched it, I read, I listened, and it seems that the banksters won. That they stole all our money and they left with it, and they come back when they feel like it, and they yell at us, don't raise those taxes or we're going to leave the United States. Go. If you think there's a better country out there for you, go. We have what we need. We have freedom, we have a constitution, we have our ability to produce products, we have natural resources. We don't need those few people who piled up their money so high that we can't even find them. If you're so rich that you can actually say, screw this country because the taxes are too high, I'm leaving, leave. But the issue, what I would bring to the president's attention is, how come they can protest with guns, and yet when a young man did something wrong, he did some hacking, and he found out that there was a company employed by the U.S. government, well, by the Pentagon, supposedly the U.S. government, to investigate the Occupy movement. And what they were investigating is how to call them terrorists. They were investigating, listen carefully, how to make them terrorists so that they could shoot them dead. Now, they'd protested, the teabaggers, with guns, and the occupiers had no guns at their protests, and yet this man is now in federal prison for finding out that your sons and daughters could possibly be called terrorists because they protested the banks stealing our money. I want to have that discussion with the president. I want to understand why it is that they can use guns to protest his blackness, but we in the Occupy movement, though I personally didn't participate, I am at heart an occupier, and I'm behind them 100%. Why does the Occupy movement have the extra responsibility of saying, we don't have any guns, we're not going to shoot you, please don't shoot us, hands up, don't shoot? Why do we have to do that? They carried guns to their protests. That's the question. That's where it is. Why did they not get arrested for flashing their guns, and yet the Occupy protesters, they were actually doing a study paid for by the U.S. government taxpayer dollars on how do we shoot all those college kids, how do we shoot all those unemployed workers who want their money back from the banks, how do we get to call them terrorists so that the Pentagon can come out and shoot them. I know it sounds confusing. It's simple. They tried to find a way to shoot the poor people for protesting the rich people for stealing all our money. Explain that to me. I'll be back in a little while. I have a few more questions, but my first question is, and I'll leave it right there, why did they use guns and not get shot, and yet the Pentagon looked for all kinds of ways, any way they could, to declare that the occupiers were protesters, or were terrorists, so that they could shoot them? Does the Pentagon work for the 1%? Is the Pentagon actually the militia of the banksters? Big question, big problem. Something that Jack Reed doesn't even know about, doesn't even begin to understand. I would go there and I would ask the question, do we get to protest equally, without weapons, with words? That's how we're going to win this. That's how we're going to win the whole thing. Talk to you guys later. It is Sunday the 2nd. We've got 48 hours. I'll be back to talk to you about the Senate seat, but you have decisions to make. We belong in place. Gina's going to make a great governor. Seth Magazine is going to make a great treasurer. I think Nellie Gorbea would be a fine Secretary of State. We have some great people to bring along. In the meantime, we're going to put the General Assembly under a microscope. And every moment, everything they do, we're going to watch. So get ready. We're coming. Thank you.